Intuition, your built-in bullshit detector. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Accidental Ascension. My name's David Masterton and welcome back. So today in this episode, we're going to talk about intuition. Now in the previous episodes, we've discussed in a sort of beginner series, what is spirituality, how I started into spirituality and some of the tips and clues that I gave in that. And it kind of really leads on to intuition, because when you start to follow the concepts or the beliefs of spirituality and then you start to bring them into your life, then a lot of those concepts are going to be all about your inside, your inner self, your genuine self. Removing distractions, removing noise, connecting with your true life path, your purpose. Figuring what is for you and what is not for you. And that's your intuition. And as you start, a bit like anything, the more you use it, the better it gets. The less you use it, the less you're going to be able to, or the worse it gets. So I liken it as running. If I run, I get better at it. If I don't run, I get really bad at it. And then I forget that I'm not that good at running, and then I try and belt out a decent time and remember that I'm a wheezing, huffy-puffy mess until I work back into it. Intuition is very similar, especially at the start. It's a gut feeling. Everyone's got a gut. And so some things feel right, some things don't feel right. But then we spend a lot of time in our head trying to find evidence, or even if we are fearful of something. Let's just say you're afraid of speaking out. You're afraid of being genuine because you're worried about a fear of rejection or a fear of abandonment, or just a sense of shame around expectations that you shouldn't be feeling that way. All of these things will suppress. And one thing that I found is the way intuition talks to you. When intuition talks to you, it can be, and it's not always the case, but it can be that crazy idea that you have that's quickly ushered away by all the logical reasons why you shouldn't be doing it. Don't do it because someone else has already thought of it. Who are you to start this project? You don't know enough about it. You haven't got enough money. All of these reasons why you're destined to fail. But the funny thing is, it was your intuition talking. That's not to be confused by really dark thoughts or proposals that are given to you outside of yourself that feel like they're being dropped in your head. The way you can tell the difference between the two is that intuition is exciting. It's loving. It wants the best for you. A negative proposal that's presented to you in your mind by another energy is going to be something that will be fear triggering. And so it wants to keep you into that fear. But when you think about your intuition, and your intuition says, in my case, David, sit in front of a camera and talk about your spiritual journey, it's not going to stop a concern about who am I to be talking about spirituality, especially when there's a number of other people talking about it that I follow and respect and admire. Who am I? Now that is something that what I feel is like a deep-seated limiting belief, because I don't want to be rejected. I'm working through the fear of rejection. How that's different to a proposal from a negative entity, it's going to come through and absolutely wreak havoc. It's going to feel like it's an impure thought. It's going to feel like it's not yours. And one way you can sort of tell is you can sort of say, I don't accept this proposal, or is this proposal for me? But we'll focus more on intuition. So when you talk about, or when you feel and listen to your intuition, things change dramatically, because I see it. And if you go back to the first video when we talk about the new thinking versus old thinking, the new thinking is a lot more heart led versus head led. And so intuition for me is very heart led. And a lot of you, me included, are used to just thinking with your head, weighing up the pros and cons, having to trust other people when it comes to certificates and governance and programs and degrees, university degrees. Though there has to be this implied trust that's implied by somebody else that sort of says what this person says is true. Now imagine that you are so in tune with your intuition that whether someone has a degree or whether someone has a certificate or is recognized by an association, it doesn't really matter. When you speak to that person, you believe there's something there for you. It's the ultimate bullshit detector. So one thing about intuition is it works through energy. It works through energy as opposed to words. It's a feeling as opposed to logic. You can take any logic and work with it. You can add more logic, subtract logic. It is something which can be a minefield. So trusting yourself is highly important, because let's just say, for example, the thing that I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of spiritual coaches, life coaches. How do we know they're for you? How do we know they're good enough? What is it about them that means that they can help you? What qualifications do they have? Well, these are all really good questions, because at the moment it's relatively unregulated. What stops the bad actors? Well, nothing. What's the government doing about it? Well, at the moment, not a whole lot outside of the regulations and the governance around running your own business and taking payments. So how do you know it's for you? Well, this is where it comes down to. With the lack of all of this, it just comes down to your gut instinct, your intuition. Is there something this person can help you with? Well, if you ask yourself that question and your intuition says yes, go for it. And they may have zero qualifications. They may only have the ability to share what they've got. Maybe they can channel a bit more of an inner knowledge or wisdom. But either way, following your intuition, it will give you the best advice, as opposed to someone who may have all the qualifications, may have all the referrals, all the recommendations, but there's something not right about it. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It doesn't mean what they have to offer has zero value, but your intuition's telling you that's not for you. And you start to think about it when it comes to career paths or when it comes to being with someone. You might have all the reasons you can write down on paper why you should be doing this, but then you find yourself still coming back to that sinking gut feeling of, oh, something's not quite right. That something's not quite right could be your intuition telling you a change needs to happen. It might be as serious as fully moving away from that, or it could be as gentle as you are in the right place with the right person, but you just need a slightly different perspective change of your own. Or it could be anything in between. So it's about trusting yourself. We've been brought up in a society where we've had to seek the external validation, the external qualifications to be able to trust. When you're trusting something, you're giving the power over to it, especially if it's externally. If you're trusting yourself and your intuition, all of that power is within you, and you're working that and you are building that. And so think about the times where your heart wants something but your head changes it. Now, sometimes, especially for myself, there has had to be a bit of a self-check, because when you go too hard on being impulsive, that can be incredibly toxic. So I'm not sort of saying being impulsive, but when your intuition talks to you, it talks to you in a way which is gentle and kind, but it can also be quite triggering. Triggering when it brings up limiting beliefs or fears. Now, if you've come across this video to start off with and you haven't seen the other beginner videos or episodes, go check them out. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. This one's just going to be a short one. There's not so much we can go over with intuition. But if you want to know how I found my intuition, go back to the how did I get started in spirituality, or my beginner tips for spirituality or getting started. With all of these things that happen, this will grow from that. But until next video or next episode, take care.